Okay, so you know how you sent in that article?
Yeah.
The one that was really diving into like all the new stuff they're finding out about the brain?
Right.
Well, what really got us like immediately was how it's like totally changing that old idea of the
Yeah.
brain being like, you know,
Thickest thing.
yeah, like a machine that can't change.
Hmm.
So, for this deep dive,
Okay.
our whole mission is to pull out the most interesting and the stuff that like really matters.
Makes
It's
sense.
from that article, just for you.
Cool.
We're going to look at how flexible your brain actually is,
Okay.
the crazy ways your environment shapes it, even what happens like right at the end of life,
Oh, wow.
and then some connections to the rest of your body that are
Right.
like totally unexpected.
I'm intrigued already. What's really revolutionary, I think, about all this new brain science
Yeah.
is this like fundamental shift in how we see the brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's not this static thing
Right.
with like preset circuits. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more like a dynamic network that's always adapting and like reorganizing itself
Yeah.
based on what you experience, what you do.
Makes sense.
Think of it less like fixed hardware
Okay.
and more like software that's constantly getting updates
Ah, I like that.
and rewrites
Yeah.
throughout your life.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so let's get into this whole rewriting thing, right?
Okay.
With neuroplasticity. Because if you're anything like me, you probably grew up thinking your brain was pretty much like hardwired after a certain age.
Yeah. Fixed.
Yeah. This article is like
Boom.
totally flips that idea on its head.
It really does.
Right.
Neuroplasticity is the core idea here.
Okay.
Your brain's amazing ability to make new connections and like reorganize itself throughout your whole life.
Wow.
And that goes completely against that older, more rigid view.
Okay.
What's super interesting is how easily your brain adapts its structure and its function, in response to new information,
Right.
changes in your environment, or even injury.
So it's like always ready to change.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Always adapting.
And the article talked about some research that really showed this, like Dr. Michael Merzenich work with monkeys.
Right.
What did that tell us?
So Dr. Merzenich, his early work was groundbreaking, really. He showed that when nerves in a monkey's hand were damaged, the brain areas that were like linked to those nerves, they didn't just shut down.
You'd think they would, right?
So, yeah.
Like if they're not getting any information.
But instead, over time, those areas were taken over, repurposed by the brain regions that were still working.
Wow.
Like the parts of the hand that were still functioning.
So the brain was like, okay, I got to reroute this.
Exactly. The brain actually rewired itself
That's incredible.
to adapt to that new input.
Yeah.
So the point isn't just that the brain changes, but that it actively reorganizes itself when things change.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, pretty incredible, right?
It is, yeah.
And it's not just animals.
Right.
The article also talked about
Human examples.
right, human examples, yeah.
Yeah, I think those were the ones that like really stood out to me.
Oh, absolutely.
So like someone who has a stroke,
Okay.
they might lose the ability to move in certain ways because the parts of their brain controlling those movements are damaged.
Yeah.
But with rehab and practice, they can often like regain some function.
Sometimes even significant function.
Yeah. And that's neuroplasticity, right?
Exactly. In action.
Wow.
The brain finds new paths to bypass those damaged areas.
So it's like finding detours.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the example of people who are blind developing better hearing.
Right.
That shows how the brain can repurpose whole regions.
Yeah, it's like amazing, right?
If it needs to.
That's a perfect example of what we call cross-modal plasticity.
No.
Which means when one sense is, diminished or absent, the brain areas that would normally deal with that sense can be taken over and optimized by the other senses.
Makes sense.
So for people who are blind, the visual cortex,
which would normally like process sight.
Right, exactly, can become more sensitive to sound or touch.
Wow.
Leading to much better hearing or sense of touch.
That's amazing.
It's as if the brain is like, okay, if I'm not getting input here,
I got to boost something else.
Exactly.
Wow.
I'll boost the others.
And the article said that this ability to change it's not just for young brains, you know.
Oh, no.
It continues throughout our lives.
Throughout the lifespan.
Yeah, that's like really encouraging, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
While it's true that the brain might be more adaptable when we're younger,
right.
the ability to change
Yeah.
stays with us our whole lives.
Wow.
You keep forming new connections
Yeah.
and strengthening existing ones based on your experiences, what you learn, and your environment.
So it's never too late.
Never too late.
To like learn something new.
Exactly.
It's a new challenge.
I like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of environment, the article talked about how our surroundings can actually shape the physical structure.
The physical structure, wow.
Yeah, of our brains. And the London taxi driver study is a perfect example.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
What's so cool about that study is the direct link they found between a specific thing in the environment, this incredibly complex task of memorizing London streets.
Right, which are like crazy complicated.
Oh, they're a maze.
Yeah.
And a measurable change in brain structure.
So like physically their brains were different.
Exactly. They found that taxi drivers had a much larger hippocampus.
Which is the brain area that's key for spatial memory. And navigation. Compared to people who didn't drive taxis.
Right.
And what's even more interesting, the size of the hippocampus was actually linked to how long they've been driving.
So the longer they drove, the bigger that part of their brain got.
The bigger it got.
That's incredible.
So literally navigating those streets was making that part of their brain grow.
Wow. So for everyone listening, it shows that our daily experiences play a huge role in literally building our brain.
It's not passive.
Yeah.
It's active.
Yeah, we're shaping it.
We're shaping it all the time.
And it's not just spatial memory, right?
Right.
The article mentioned other ways that learning and just like practices can change our brains.
Absolutely. Think about learning a new language. Studies show that this can actually increase the density of gray matter in parts of the brain involved in language.
So literally, like more brain matter.
Yeah. Denser gray matter.
Wow, that's amazing.
And similarly, learning music can enhance areas related to auditory processing, fine motor control.
So it's like working out your brain.
It is.
But with music.
Exactly. Even meditation, which focuses on attention and mindfulness, can lead to measurable changes in brain regions associated with emotional regulation and focus.
So basically, how we engage with the world changes our brains physically.
It leaves a physical imprint.
Wow.
On your neural landscape,
Then the article kind of went into some unexpected territory.
Oh, yeah.
Like the brain at the very end of life.
Okay.
The findings about what happens in the brain during death.
Right.
They were surprising, weren't they?
They were pretty unexpected.
Yeah.
This is a new area of research, you know, still early stages.
Right.
And we need to be careful about how we interpret it.
Of course, yeah.
But the initial findings, they're definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
They found these brainwave patterns that look like those seen during dreaming. Or deep meditation.
Interesting.
At the moment of death.
Wow.
And it raises some big questions about consciousness and what's happening in those final moments.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Like about what it all means.
Yeah, what could be going on in there?
The article even connected it
to the life flashing before your eyes thing.
Yeah. That's something people have talked about forever.
For ages.
But now there might actually be a neurological explanation.
That's what they're thinking.
Wow.
So this surge of activity in the brain could potentially be like a fast replay.
Of memories.
Yeah, memories and experiences.
And it's probably just speculation at this point.
Speculative, yeah.
But it gives us like a biological framework.
A way to understand it.
Yeah, for this thing that people have reported for so long.
Exactly. And it suggests that maybe there's this final, perhaps heightened period of like cognitive activity.
Wow.
Before the brain stops working.
It really makes you wonder about consciousness, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like, what is it really?
The big questions.
Yeah.
I bet you thought about that.
I did.
After reading that section.
For sure. Moving on, the complexity of the brain.
Right.
It's almost impossible to grasp, you know?
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. 86 billion neurons.
Trillions of connections.
Yeah, trillions.
It's hard to even imagine.
Like mapping all of that seems like an impossible task.
It's a monumental challenge, for sure.
Yeah.
The scale of it, the complexity of what we call the connectome, which is basically the map of all the connections in your brain. It's just staggering.
Yeah.
We don't have the technology yet to fully map it.
In a living person.
Right, in a living human being.
It'd be like trying to map every road.
Every single road.
Oh.
Yeah. And pathway in the world, in real time.
Yeah, like all at once.
This huge undertaking.
But the article talked about a breakthrough with the fruit fly brain.
Right, the fruit fly.
Why is mapping something so seemingly simple so important for understanding our own brains?
What's fascinating, even though the fruit fly brain is so much smaller and less complex than a human brain, it actually shares a lot of fundamental structures.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And pathways with us.
Wow.
So by successfully mapping
fruit fly's connectome.
Exactly, the complete connectome. Researchers have learned a ton about how these basic circuits work and how they function in things like memory, learning, even neurological disorders.
So it's like a model system.
It is. It's a crucial model system.
Wow.
It gives us a blueprint, basically, and advances the technology that we might eventually use.
To map more complex brains.
Yeah, including our own.
Wow.
It's like understanding flight by studying insects before you try to build a jet plane.
That's a good analogy.
It helps to start simple.
So it's a stepping stone.
A crucial one.
Yeah.
Understanding the basics in a simpler system helps us tackle the complexity
of our own brains.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to something a bit more like
tangible.
Yeah, tangible exercise.
Right.
The article mentions some really cool research from MIT on how physical activity really powers our brains.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
This research really shows the connection between your physical health and your cognitive health.
Like a two-way street.
Exactly, a two-way street.
Wow.
Exercise isn't just good for your muscles.
Right.
And your heart. It has these profound positive effects on your brain.
So when you exercise, your body releases all these...
They're trophic factors.
Yeah, what are those?
Think of them like brain food or growth boosters.
Okay, so they help the brain grow.
Yeah. They promote the formation of new neurons.
Wow.
Which is called neurogenesis. And they strengthen the connections.
Between the existing ones.
Exactly. So it's helping your brain grow and get stronger.
On a physical level.
On a structural level, yeah.
That's incredible.
And this has huge benefits for your thinking abilities. Studies have shown again and again that exercise helps a lot of cognitive functions.
Like what?
Attention, executive function, which is things like planning and decision-making and processing speed.
So it helps you think faster.
It can, yeah.
Wow.
It's also great for memory. And it's even shown promise in helping people recover from strokes and other brain trauma.
So it's like a tune-up for your brain.
It is.
A performance enhancement.
Exactly.
And the article said it could even protect against...
age-related cognitive decline.
Yeah, like Alzheimer's. That's a good reason to get moving.
It's a great incentive.
Isn't it?
For sure.
Yeah.
The evidence is really strong that staying active...
throughout your life.
Yeah, your whole life.
Can help you have better cognitive health.
When you're older.
Right, later in life.
And potentially reduce the risk of things like Alzheimer's and other dementias.
So what you do now can have long-term benefits.
Huge benefits for your brain.
It's pretty amazing. Okay, this next connection was a surprise to me.
Okay, what's that?
When I was reading the article, the link between our gut and our brain.
The gut-brain connection.
Yeah. It's easy to think of the gut as just being about digestion, but the article was like...
There's so much more to it.
Yeah.
What's really incredible is the communication network between your gut microbiome.
Remind me what that is again?
So it's all the bacteria, viruses, and fungi.
Right, that live in our gut.
Yeah, in your digestive system and your brain.
So they're talking to each other.
They're constantly communicating.
Wow.
It's called the gut-brain axis. Changes in those gut bacteria can send signals to your brain that affect your mood, your thinking, even your behavior.
Wow, it's a lot more direct.
It is.
than I think most people realize.
And most people think, yeah.
And the article gave some like really clear examples of this, like how changing the bacteria in your gut can affect how you process emotions and stress.
Right. For example, research has shown that introducing good bacteria,
like probiotics.
Yeah, probiotics can have a positive effect.
On mood.
On mood, yeah, and anxiety levels.
That's interesting.
And on the other hand, imbalances in your gut microbiome have been linked to a higher risk of certain mental health disorders.
So there's a real connection there.
There really is.
Yeah. Wow.
It's amazing to think that what's happening in your gut can have a real impact.
On your mental health?
Absolutely.
That experiment with the mice was like eye-opening.
Oh, yeah, the anxious mice.
Yeah, the calm mice became anxious after they got gut bacteria from anxious mice.
That study was powerful.
It really shows how much influence the gut microbiome has.
It's a clear demonstration
that
the bacteria in your gut aren't just passively digesting food.
Right. They're not just bystanders.
They're active players
Yeah.
in shaping how you think and feel.
Wow.
This opens up some really exciting possibilities for developing new therapies.
For mental health.
Therapies that target the microbiome.
So instead of just medication?
Yeah, it could be a whole new approach.
It makes you think about the potential of like focusing on your gut health.
Right.
To improve your mental health.
That's the idea.
That's pretty amazing.
It's a fascinating area of research.
Now, the article also mentioned how losing weight can be a brain game changer.
That's an interesting way to put it.
It's not just about the physical changes.
No, not at all.
It seems like there's more to it.
There's a lot more going on.
Yeah.
So when you lose weight, it sets off all these changes in your body that go way beyond just losing fat.
Right.
And these changes have big impacts.
On your brain.
Exactly, on brain activity.
Wow.
And one key factor, as we were just talking about, is that shift in your gut microbiome that often happens when you lose weight. And this change in the bacteria can then influence how your brain handles hunger signals, cravings, and the reward pathways.
Which are like the pleasure centers in the brain.
Exactly, the ones associated with food.
So it's like changing how your brain reacts to food.
That's the idea.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It suggests that those changes in your diet that make it easier to resist junk food might actually be linked to
those shifts in gut bacteria.
Yeah, and how our brains respond to those food cues.
So it's not just willpower.
It's more complex than that.
It's like a biological change.
That's a combination of factors.
That's really interesting.
It is, yeah.
Finally, the article explored some new treatments for depression that go beyond like
traditional antidepressants.
Yeah, the pills.
Right.
The mention of TCCS was really interesting.
Transcranial direct current stimulation.
Yeah, what is that exactly?
It's a non-invasive technique.
Okay, so no surgery.
No surgery. Right. It uses these devices that deliver very low-level electrical currents to specific parts of the brain, the ones involved in mood and motivation.
So it's like gently stimulating those areas.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's like giving those brain regions a little nudge to get them back to a healthier state.
So it's trying to rebalance the activity.
That's the idea.
In those areas.
Yeah, by modulating the activity there, TDCS shows some real promise.
As a treatment for depression.
Right. And it often has fewer side effects
than medication.
Than traditional antidepressants,
That's good.
It's still a pretty new area of research.
Okay.
But it's a really exciting non-surgical option.
For treating depression.
Right. It's a great example of how we're finding new ways.
More targeted.
Yeah, more targeted and less invasive ways.
To support mental health.
It's an exciting time for brain research.
This has been a really, really insightful deep dive.
It has been fascinating.
The main takeaway for me, and hopefully for you listening too, is that our brains are incredibly adaptable.
They really are.
And interconnected.
More than we ever thought.
Yeah. It's not this fixed, isolated organ we used to think.
It's constantly changing.
Yeah.
Based on our experiences.
Our environment.
Our gut health.
Yeah, even the bacteria in our gut.
It's all connected.
And how much we exercise.
It's a complex system.
So, given how adaptable our brains are, what's one small thing you could try this week?
Okay.
To engage that neuroplasticity?
That's a great question.
Like maybe learn a new word in another language?
I like that.
Or really pay attention to the different sounds on your commute.
Being mindful of your surroundings?
Yeah. Or even try a new recipe.
Oh, that's a good one.
To diversify your gut bacteria.
It's all about keeping the brain active and engaged.
It really makes you think about how we can actively shape our own brains.
We're not just passive passengers.
No. We have the power to change.
We have a lot more control than we might realize.
That's a great point to end on.
I think so.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Looking forward to it.